members who weren't able to join us tonight will be able to see the presentation. And so welcome. So I am Cindy Roy Gonzalez. I am the town's public information officer, and I'm really excited that you all have joined us tonight for this first forum. So I am intending tonight's forum to be both a presentation from me about the methods of communication that the town is using right now and the ways in which we communicate. And then I'd love to hear some feedback and some discussion from the group after the presentation. This is the first of 5 sessions that we will hold over the next couple of months. This one is intended to be sort of broad, high level overview. We do have, I know a lot of people want to talk about the website. We do have 3 forums planned specifically about the website as we launch a refresh of the town's website. And then we have one forum that is specifically geared towards town meeting members. I know there are a number of you on this meeting right now who are town meeting members. So we will get to that as well at a future meeting. And the list of those forums are on the town's website. I will also post the PowerPoint presentation that I'll be using tonight to the town's website. It has a list of resources if folks want to go back and take a look at that. And then the last thing I will say before I start the presentation is that I welcome feedback. If you're not able to or don't want to give feedback in this forum, you can certainly send me an email. My email address is on the town website, on the town manager's office, and it's also at the end of this presentation as well. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, can we all see that? All right, great. So like I said, this is a high level overview tonight of the various tools that we are using to communicate. I've been on with the town of Needham since October of 2019. Some of these are new methods. Some of these are methods that existed prior to my arrival here in town. And I'm, eager to hear from you guys about which ones you use, how you use them, and if there are others we should consider. So with that, I just want to take a moment and talk about the role that I play here in town. So I work with all departments across town government, as well as many of the boards and commissions, to educate and inform the community about important issues, projects that we have going on in town, events that we have going on in town, and other news that the town should be aware of. So I do that in large part in partnership with folks in town government, but also external partners. So I know I've worked a lot with some of you, including the League of Women Voters and the Exchange Club, among others. And so it's this sort of symbiotic relationship where I can help share out some of the stuff that you all have going on, and then many of you share what the town has going on as well. So we'll talk about some of these tools we use to share that kind of information. One thing I'll note is not all of the tools are singularly managed by me. So a number of the social media platforms, a number of the websites are controlled at a high level by the PIO, but on a day-to-day basis by the various departments. And so I'm going to go through a couple of these. There are probably more than I've even listed on the next couple of slides, but just want to give you a sense of how we use our main tools. So the town's website is obviously probably the largest. It's the repository for all of our news and information. It, in fact, probably has much more information than I even know exists on there. And that will be a part of our refresh process, is to go through the website, get rid of stuff that is no longer relevant, and make sure that what is on the website is really of use to folks. As I mentioned, we'll start that redesign process this summer. I actually have somebody interning in our office now who's going through and fixing all the broken links and things like that. So we can do a pretty seamless migration. That process will start in August, and our goal is to launch the redesigned website in the first quarter of 2022. We use Civic Plus, which many of the municipalities around us also use. It's sort of their specialty is municipal government websites. Our social media channels. So many of you know we have 4 main social media channels. We have the Town of Needham's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube channels. As I mentioned, individual departments may also have their own social media channels. DPW, Park and Rec, the library use either some combination of social media platforms or all of them. I don't know that any of the departments are using channels outside of these 4 main ones, but these are the 4 main ones that we use. You may know we recently launched a newsletter. So as COVID, my focus on COVID has decreased, we were able to shift from a weekly COVID update to what has sort of unintentionally become a weekly newsletter. It was meant to be an email newsletter that went out as we had stuff to share, but thankfully there's always stuff to share. So we've gotten into the habit of doing it weekly. The email newsletter, the News You Needham, is an email newsletter that goes out directly to subscribers. And from time to time, I've reminded folks how they can subscribe. I'm always happy to help. I've had a couple folks who I think actually may even be on this meeting reach out to me directly to ask for the link. So I'll share that if anybody wants that. And it'd be great if you forward that on to others who might be interested in that as well. Notify Me is a tool we use through Civic Plus, the same as the website provider, which is a really great tool for self-selecting items that you're interested in. So you can get planning board agendas, select board agendas, field status updates from Park and Rec is one of actually the most popular Notify Me's. And so there's a button right on the website homepage that says Notify Me. You click on that and then you can choose which emails or text messages you want to receive. Message boards we use a little less frequently because there are, first of all, they're hard resources, so we don't always have them if the Public Works Department is using them for construction and other messages, but we have used them during COVID, for example, as a way to tell people about the COVID website that we launched, as a reminder about mask wearing and other public safety messages. Couple others that we have. So there's the Memorial Field Message Board, which we have used during COVID. There is a fee, so we've been a little selective about how we use that, but it's another tool in the toolbox. You may be familiar with the Compass, which is the newsletter that goes out to seniors in Needham that the CAF and Council on Aging folks work on. We have Alert Needham, which you may know previously as Rave Alert. So when I got here, we rebranded it Alert Needham, and we worked closely with the League of Women Voters on an effort to promote Alert Needham. We in Needham have really used that as strictly an emergency notification system. Other communities use it in different ways, but we have felt that, you know, it's a great tool for really getting people's attention when we really need their attention. And you can sign up for that on the notify email list as well. That has its own separate channel. The Needham channel, which I think is actually recording this tonight, has been a terrific partner. Not only do they receive the press releases that we send out, and so they're a media partner, but they are also always willing to help us with public information campaigns, PSAs. They've been tremendous as we navigate the switch from all remote public meetings to some meetings as hybrid, in person and remote. So they're another method of communication for us. and then traditional media releases, which we post all of our media releases to the website, in addition to sending out to the Needham Times, Hometown Weekly, and other Greater Boston media outlets as appropriate. As I mentioned, the redesigned website is coming soon. We also have 2 other tools that we are planning to start using. The citizen survey we have used in the past. It was on hold during COVID, but that's a survey that goes out every 2 years to the town on a number of topics, including a few that are custom to Needham. So just so folks know, that next survey will go out in March. We'll start the process in March of 2022. And that'll give us a good snapshot of information in terms of the safety of the community, how people want to communicate in the community. So you can actually go to the website now and find past survey results if you're interested in that. And the company that we have worked with in the past, National Citizen Survey, has partnered with, or maybe acquired by, or they acquired another company called Polko. And Polko is great because Polko allows for micropolling. They have a pretty deep resource guide that allows us to do polling on any number of topics, and we can benchmark ourselves against other communities. And also gives us the opportunity to create our own polls on any given topic that we might be interested in. And folks can sign up to be recipients of the polls, or people can engage in the polls on sort of a one-off basis. So with the new fiscal year starting tomorrow, you should expect soon that you'll start to see some of those polls going out to the community. As I mentioned, I will post this resource, this whole PowerPoint, to the website, but I wanted to just call your attention to the resource slide. If you want to keep this handy, this has direct links to some of the resources that I've mentioned, as well as our social media handles, the sign up for the newsletter if you're interested in that as well. And so with that, I'm going to just turn it over to the group. I have a couple questions here that I thought could prompt some conversation. One, how do you receive your information? What information are you most often looking for when you are seeking information from the town? And are there specific ideas about how we can improve the flow of information, not just from the town to the community, but also a real two-way conversation? I'm going to stop sharing just so I can see your faces. And if I need to put the questions back up, I can do that. And then I guess, I don't know that we have a raise hand feature available. Kate, do we have that? We may not.
We don't, Cindy, so people can just either
Right,
literally
so
raise their hand or jump.
Unmute yourself or physically raise your hand. Paul.
Well, I figured I'd kick it off with a question anyway. One of the things that I think would be interesting is to be able to understand or get feedback on when people have a question, where's the first place they go? Because I know a lot of times, you know, if people are thinking about what kind of resources they need, you know, you could make the assumption that they all go to the website, but that might not be true based on the fact that, you know, some people are looking for things that are related to, say, you know, family types of things, and other ones are interested in what's happening because their street is being worked on and that kind of thing. And I know that it's difficult to be able to try to be able to cover all the anticipated questions or resources in one place, but it might be interesting to be able to do one of the micro polls and find out, you know, when you want to ask a question about the town, where's the first place you go? And then find out what are the kinds of questions they normally ask, so that so you could collect sort of the, you know, the top 20 questions that they tend to ask all the time. And then if they say website, then those could be connected right there, so they'd find it fast.
It's a good, it's a really good point, Paul. And I'll say, I try when I proactively put information out from the town, let's say, instead of a specific department, I will try to put it out through at least 3 different channels if I can, so that people who are not social media people, but who are website people can find it there, or all included in the newsletter. So I try to hit a couple of different platforms, but it would be really interesting. And I should mention, I have somebody taking notes so that I can engage with you while we record this feedback. The other thing I was going to mention, and now it has slipped my mind. Well, it'll come back to me, but I appreciate that thought. So thank you for that.
Sure, thanks.
Let's click the other screen. I can only see one screen at a time. Feel free to unmute yourself and just jump in if you'd like.
I wanted to give other people the chance to talk, so I hate that I'm the second one talking. So thanks for having this forum. I mean, I think sadly the attendance here tonight is kind of proof that, I think there's just a lot of communication challenges to try to engage people and get them involved. I really don't have solutions to that. I think it's just information isn't getting out. When I talk to people in the community, there's so little they know. Especially, people that are under 60 really don't read a lot of newspapers. So the Needham Times does not have the impact it once did, nor does it have the amount of reporting it used to. And if they're not Facebook people, like Needham Facebook, and I know once again is that the best information that's getting out, but I feel like they really don't have a sense of what's going on, which is a challenge, but also an opportunity. Once again, I don't know. I like your newsletter that you just started. I think it's a good first start. I think there's good content in there for people that subscribe to that. We all know the website's a real challenge. I think people have been saying that forever. I think all of us say, don't bother going, just go Google search to try to find something. And boy, that's just a real problem. And when I hear the term redesign, I just worry it's not enough. That a lot of times that's more just reskinning. And I think to me, the root of it is the architecture of it. And is that platform able to do a really, like, if you look at other towns, can you find one that has a really nice, clean, easy to find everything architecture? If not, we really want to rethink that platform, even if everyone's using it. And if we're not able to do the re-architecting, the one thing I would say we just absolutely should do as soon as we could do is a really robust site search with everything indexed. So if your architecture stinks, if you just at least give people a good search to find what they're looking for, it's not, doesn't solve it, but it's a workaround at least, so people can find what they need, which right now, none of us can. I have people, even people that are on town meeting and everything like me that, are experts at finding things really struggle, that things aren't there, things aren't updated, and they can't find it. I'm a big fan of surveys. The citizen survey that you were talking about, I've looked at it a couple of times. I look at it as more of a citizen happiness survey, kind of comparing us to other towns on people's satisfaction. I would really prefer more frequent pulses for you, and this isn't really like a communications thing, it's more like a Kate and a leadership thing, of just to really get an understanding of the prioritization of what citizens really want, because we're all in our own little echo chambers, every single one of us, no matter how connected we are. So I would love to get a real statistically significant read once a year, twice a year on how people think about, like, the crazy things we all debate, that we all think we know what people like the train horns, like trash pickup. Like, I think there's a list of like 10 things that just always come up over and over that I would love a real survey with just like phone and online, and make sure you have enough seniors and enough like of the different buckets that you want, so people can say, yeah, that's a good read. That, I know that costs money, but boy, that would just be really important. And my biggest thing across the board on communications is really the communications is for the citizens. The citizens are paying for it. And I would just really urge all of you, less spin and really more transparency. Like, every piece of information the town has, it's the citizen's right to get it. So I hate when information requests have to pull stuff out and I see it and I'm like, we kind of should have known that already. That always really bothers me. I know I, as a citizen, want information that's important and not for it to be watered down to make things seem rosy, where sometimes they're not. And I would also really urge you to work to have better relationships with the media partners we do have, which I'm talking about the Needham Times. And I know I brought this up at town meeting, and I know Marianne's here tonight. And Marianne, you said at town meeting how great your relationships are with your media partners. Marianne, I know you speak the truth, or you speak what you know is the truth. And I would really urge you, if you never have, to speak to the editor of the Needham Times, and he can literally tell you what it's like dealing with Needham, what it's like dealing with other towns on things like COVID and other, and how people are afraid to talk to him and say they can't talk to him, and it's been vetoed that they can talk, and that's not like that in other towns, and that's a recent thing, and I don't like that, and I don't think any of us should like that. And once again, thank you for having this, and I look forward to attending the additional forums.
Thank you.
I was curious, sort of picking out one of the things that was just said about, is there like a framework or a model that you're looking at as a sort of a best practice? Is there a community or, something that you've seen in your time working on this that is like your ideal sort of for this kind of this kind of communication work, which is obviously like multi-layered and gets just more complicated the more there are other sort of things bubbling up to sort of take the place or hoping to take the place. So I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, great question. So I actually have a group of public information officers that I work with from surrounding communities. And we do meet regularly and share best practices. During COVID, we because nobody had really experienced this before, we met and we discussed various topics and issues. And the great thing is, we call it stealing from each other, but we're all doing the same thing and our communities are similar. And so we do share, we are working, this is a little preview, I guess. We are working on a basic strategic communications plan. Like what does every community need to do to communicate out and with its citizens? And we're working on this collaboratively so that we can each then take it back to our own communities and tailor it for our own community's needs. And so, yeah, it's really nice. I'm sort of an island in a way in the town of Needham, in that I'm the only one that has my position. And so having these other PIOs is great because it does really create sort of a team mentality, and you can, like I said, share best practices, go to the group with questions. It's been great. So yes, thank you. Anybody else, feel free to jump in. Everybody's hot.
This is Carol Katie.
Hi, Karen.
I was just wondering about the website. I know when I look at other towns, there are a lot of towns that have very similar formats and they all are problematic. Do you have to use that format? Is there some restriction? Can you break away from that?
So good question. So we could certainly go outside of Civic Plus. I will say the benefit right now to staying with Civic Plus is that we are due this redesign at no additional cost. And we are grandfathered in. The last redesign process, my understanding, was 3 years ago. Since then, they've made all sorts of, a website 3 years ago is going to be in some ways radically different than what a website should be today. And so in my mind, it's worth for speed and cost reasons going with Civic Plus on this redesign process. And like I said, many cities and towns in Massachusetts use Civic Plus because they do understand, they are focused on municipal websites. But all that being said, if we go down this road and it's still not providing the kind of, it doesn't allow us to provide the information or the user-friendliness that we're seeking, it's certainly worth considering going in a different direction. And then the town will have to decide whether they want to spend the money to do that. There are bigger cities that have their own website platforms that don't use a service, but that obviously costs a lot more money and requires, again, I'm one person, right? Cities like the city of Boston and others have webmasters and communications teams and things like that. And so we're doing, I think this refresh is a good first step. And then let's see how it is. The other piece of this that I know Civic Plus is offering as part of our package is a mobile app. I'm super interested in what they're going to offer through that mobile app, whether it's just, you know, is it just looking at the website the same way on your phone, or is it actually adding more functionality than the website itself? So I think exploring the differences between what existed 3 years ago and what exists now with Civic Plus, like I said, is a good starting point, but doesn't preclude changes in the future.
Actually, on that point, I was just thinking, I teach in Acton, and our district website is good. It's a little cumbersome though, and I have colleagues who work with it a lot. But they said that part of the reason they use it is because it offers a translation, like an automatic translation. I wonder if that's part of the deal with the town websites too. That you know, I guess I don't know how, but I guess it can make it kind of kludgy.
It's a good question, and I'll take a note of that to ask. We get assigned a project manager for the whole project in August, and so a lot of these questions are things I'll be able to find out. I'll give it another minute or two if anybody else wants to jump in. And like I said, if not, but you have questions or comments or ideas after we wrap up tonight, please do feel free to send me an email anytime. I know a lot of you actually have sent emails looking at other websites from other municipalities and saying, hey, this looks great, you should consider this. So feel free to do that as well. There are some municipal websites hosted by Civic Plus that are really great. And so, you know, picking and choosing, borrowing, stealing elements from those is definitely something I think we should take a look at.
This is Carol. I'll just add to my earlier comment. Thinking, I heard Doug say that he looked up old surveys. And I was kind of trying to look for that. One of the new members of the select board has put out her own poll, and I thought, I think we have something like that, but I could not find it. So Doug, obviously you've got it going, but I couldn't find it, and I tried it even through Google. So maybe you can.
It was not easy to find, but yeah, it's out there somewhere. I'm sure someone on here from town leadership can get it.
Right on town government publications. 2 clicks.
Okay.
I think you have, if you're going to search on it, Carol, I think you need to know the name of the document, and that's not intuitive. I grant you for sure. So
yeah, so this is something I've learned as I've started to go down this road of the new website. Part of the challenge is the website, but part of the challenge is when a department creates a web page, they're supposed to put, when they create the web page, they're supposed to put keywords, right? Like what search terms might people use to find this information? But the people who are doing the web pages are not necessarily communications people, right? So they may or may not put in keywords, but they may be the wrong keywords. And so just trying to streamline that process a little bit, I think, put aside the refresh, adding keywords to web pages when they're created should help people find what they're looking for. And so that's just another piece that we've got to work on.
So I don't know, I've never used any of the municipal platforms, but for the better content management systems, they normally have some intelligence that recommends some keywords, which make it easier for non-communications people to get some functioning keywords up there. Once again, that may not exist in the municipal area, but I feel like there's got to be some platform out there that has some of that best practices. I know that our current website is worse than what was a good website 3 years ago, so I worry they're a little behind, even if they're municipal focused.
It's a good point. I was not aware of that, so it's a good question for me to ask them when I engage with them later this summer.
So can I ask a comment and a question? So my question, you may have answered in your presentation, and I wasn't watching everything really, I wasn't reading all the slides closely. How many residents or how many people are currently subscribed to the email News You Need 'em or whatever it's called, which I like.
2,100 and growing. So
And growing. Yeah, I think that needs to absolutely needs to grow.
it's been 3 weeks, Elizabeth.
I know. Has it only been 3? Anyway, I think it's great. And yeah, and I think everybody who knows about it, I can't remember at the bottom, do you say share this with your, I think you do. Yeah, we absolutely, everybody should be sharing it on social media. The other thing that I have a hard, and this may go to the website, so forgive me. The other thing I have a hard time finding, so I was just checking the website and I can see on the left-hand side, you've got the link to Facebook, you've got the link to Twitter, you've got the link to contact. Is there a place on the town website that has the link to the YouTube page?
You go, yes.
Anyway, I would suggest that it be in that left-hand column along with the other social media.
Okay.
I know that the town meeting, the videos that were produced for town meeting were not well watched, and that they're such a tremendous resource for town meeting members and anybody else who wants to know what's going on in town. And I find going to YouTube and trying to find Town of Needham impossible. I've since found the link and I've bookmarked it because I have such a hard time finding it. And I don't know how you change those keywords on the YouTube page, but when I search for Town of Needham, I think I get realtors pages or something. So anyway, that also is not intuitive. And that may be a function of YouTube being difficult, but I think the link right on that homepage, right under Facebook and Twitter would be helpful.
Great. Thank you for that.
Cindy, if I could, before you fix that piece, Elizabeth, if you, on the front page, you scroll all the way down to the very bottom, it says connect with us. The YouTube link is right there. But I hear you. But
add it. I didn't even know we had an Instagram. But anyway, because I see Facebook and Twitter right there on the left, I
Right.
don't think to scroll all the way down. And that may have been where I found it in the past. I can't remember, but thank you.
Or we didn't have YouTube when it was created.
Elizabeth, I just want to pick up on one thing you said, which is the idea that it would be helpful for others to share out information that they are receiving from the town with other people in town who they know would benefit from the information. You know, I've said this once, but I'm one person and I'm paid to do the PIO job, but I think it would be really helpful to have folks share with their networks the stuff that they are receiving from the town. I can't be on the Needham Community Facebook page every moment of the day. I know there are a lot of people who do spend a lot of time on that page and also follow what's happening on the Town of Needham's Facebook page. And so even just taking responsibility for sharing what's on the town page to the community page is just one thing that people can do to help. If this group is really interested in making sure that people are aware of what's happening and getting more citizen engagement, just taking that on, it takes 2 seconds to share anything, is, I think, really helpful. And a lot of folks are much more active on that page and engage much more. I'm not sure it's appropriate, and again, I don't have the time for me to be on that page all the time.
Sure.
But for those of you who are, or those of you who do get the newsletter and think it would be helpful to share with others, I just encourage you to do that. That would be really helpful, I think.
Right, and that which just reminded me, and I don't know if you've done this, maybe reach out to the houses of worship in town and all the PTCs, obviously in September or late August or September, and get them to disseminate with their information. And Carol Patey, I know, is the new president of the League of Women Voters. Carol, I can't remember if we've shared this with League of Women Voters members. I know that there's a town meeting member Facebook page. I believe it's been shared in there. Doug Fox, that may have been you. Thank you. So yeah, we should think of those networks of people who do want to be informed, not just the Needham Facebook page in general, but those specific, so Temple Beth Shalom, for example, their weekly newsletter should have, do you want to be informed about what's going on in Needham, explore this.
We were just talking the other day. So the economic development manager here, she and I were talking about making sure that the realtors in town know that this resource exists so that they can share it with people who are new to town. Because, communications really is a community-wide effort. I certainly, lead it from the town perspective, but, there's so many different pieces and players and people involved. So great idea, Elizabeth. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thinking about that. So that's a good reason to remind John Bullion to share it with all of his Needham Blinds clients. Thinking about the realtors. I missed most of your presentation, I think, because about minute 4, the power glitched at our house, and then we had to wait for everything to restart again. And then the storm started, and we had to go deal with all the windows because the air conditioning is not working today. So I missed most of it. I think I arrived back just in time to hear Doug Fox say, Mary Ann Cooley said at town meeting. I do think Cindy does have great relationships with a number of people in the media. I hear what you're saying, Doug. I'm also going to say that I do think there's good reasons for having spokespeople for the town, which doesn't mean that Cindy is the only person who can speak, but there is a good reason for having a message that's focused. So we need to make all that work, which is absolutely right on target. I know that you're hoping to avoid the website discussion tonight, but to the extent that you get given exemplars from Civic Plus, I think this would be a great group if you're able to share out with that group some of those exemplars, because I think this group would be able to tell you what we see that we think is working and not working in some of those places. And it might be a good pre-work assignment kind of for the group leading up to that discussion. I do know that the search function is so incredibly frustrating, and I don't think that keywords are going to be enough to solve it. I think it's a multi-dimensional problem. But I would hope that Civic Plus is also paying attention to how this works on their website so that they can figure out what guidance they can give to their users to create search that's more useful.
Yeah, thanks for that, Marianne. They have already started to share some websites that are examples of websites that we could pick and choose from, elements from. And so great idea. My intention is to share examples of those during one of those website meetings, but if I will have a list of who is on this meeting, and I don't know if I have emails. If I have emails, I can share it out to this group as well. So great idea.
Well, I will say to people on the call, if you would want it to be shared with you, you can email Cindy and she can add you to the list if she does not. So that could work. I also appreciated all Elizabeth's comments, but I think for years working on the school committee and being involved with overrides and then with other groups, the challenge always with people is that they need information at the point where they realize that they need information. And even if they've seen it 60 times before, until they actually realize that they need that piece of information, they might not have seen it. And I know that when the packages go home at the start of the school year, there is so much stuff in there. So here we are in the summer and we've started this new newsletter, but I'm going to say the time to re-promote it again is probably not right in September. It might be in October, that you almost need to give people a chance to sit down and refocus again, because this overload is such an issue for everybody with information these days. We have a lot available to us and we're not always able to discern what we need to know or what we want to know. So it's a challenge, I think, for everybody who's trying to communicate things.
Are there other methods or platforms or other ways that, off the top of your heads, or maybe you've thought about this a little bit more, the town should explore using? Okay, sleep on that. Get
Can I-
back to me.
I totally understand you saying that you can't be on the Needham Facebook page at all times, but I think the town of Needham should have some very junior person or intern listening there all the time and responding to stuff and giving quick answers to things. I think that's really, really needed. I don't think you should be you, Cindy. I agree. I don't think it's the best use of your time, but someone should be listening and someone can be sharing stuff. I know you want it to be us, but I do think there's a opportunity for somebody junior to push some things out there. I know you might not like all the comments that follow it. There's going to be the typical like troll circus there, but there are a lot of good people there absorbing it and getting the information and appreciative of it. And I think there should be someone junior doing that, and not
What's so
depend on.
interesting though, Doug, is when I have shared stuff to that page, and I don't want this to go down a rabbit hole conversation, but when I have shared stuff to that page as the town, it gets much less engagement than when, say, Justin does, or you do, or somebody else shares the very same information, because you guys are a part of that community and you're engaged in that more often. Now, I can keep sharing stuff, but if there's no engagement, it goes to the bottom of the feed and nobody ever sees it. And so it's been helpful when others have also shared it, so that people see it a couple of times.
Yeah, I don't think the engagement is based on who posts it. I mean, I think the engagement happens based on how it's written and how many people like or comment on it, whether it starts to bubble up in our feeds. So I think you would have the same amount of success if you asked Justin to comment on each thing you post. I think that would help, because I think that does matter.
Actually, Doug, I think that's not true. I think Facebook's algorithm does take into account posters in choosing who they're going to show in the feed to somebody first. I don't think you just see things in chronological order.
No, I know that. No, I agree on that. I'm just saying within the Needham Facebook page,
Right.
What's getting served up is based on how much engagement it has. I don't think it makes that decision right away when someone posts. I mean, I guess maybe they do. If someone is a poster that gets a lot of engagement and they post again, maybe it does push that up in the algorithm. But I see all your posts, Cindy. I totally do. And I think a lot of people do. I think it might be like when Justin posts it, maybe it's the spin he puts on top of it that makes people engage with it. So once again, I think really maybe there's more of a very junior social media manager person that puts a little spin on some of those things, and I think you'd get plenty of engagement for them, because I think people do want that information. And going back to Elizabeth, Elizabeth is like, I look at her, she's probably like she's someone I would go to get information. So she's having a hard time getting information. It speaks to all of us. But I think there's an opportunity, because people want all those town meeting videos. I mean, there's so many great things, and some of us shared some of them. There was a lot of engagement there because people have no clue. Oh my God, we're redesigning the common. We're doing this. Like, someone should be pushing that out with a little, razzle dazzle on top of it, and not depending on us to do it. I think would be helpful.
So, and I'm just going to say, it's often challenging for proponents of an article to do that, because then people will say, oh, you're the proponent. So it does get to be interesting with who has the permission kind of to make that sort of a share.
Yeah, I mean, that's a tricky thing, right? I mean, you also don't want the person to post it, the person who hates it, to flame it. So, it's okay. Actually, whoever posts it, it's open for comments beyond that. So personally, I don't care who does. I think people will get the information.
I also don't want to go down a rabbit hole too much, but I think a lot of us struggle with Facebook sort of on a more meta basis, like the evil of it, the potential evil. And I wonder, just because I'm on it fairly often, but every so often someone will mention how the town that they live in, and then you realize, like, oh, they grew up in Needham, but now they live in Florida or whatever. So I wouldn't want to see, if you only had like one junior person, I wouldn't want to see them spending all that time on Facebook when there are so many other methods, and maybe we could cultivate and help each other find like a healthier place than Facebook. Not that I'm not going off it anytime, although I did stop on Monday just for a week, just to see how it felt. But, you know, I just think all of us wrestle so much with that particular forum that I like the idea of broadening your approach, at, you know, while also being respectful of, I've seen lots of good information there too. So just, all right, my 2 cents.
Thank you. If I did not, if I didn't do this work, I would not be on a single social media platform.
And I just feel compelled to say that while we're having discussion about a junior person who can monitor Facebook and put posts, the answer is any additional headcount, of course, has to be justified to the finance committee and has to be the most important hire that we need. I'm not sure, I'm going to tell you candidly as a select board member that I would put this as the most important hire that we need. I think there's some other things that are critical in the suite of issues that we're dealing with that might need headcount, and any headcount is going to be a discussion. Let's use a nice word, a discussion with the finance committee. So.
I totally understand that. And once again, I did say, I think you could actually get a really skilled college intern for 4 months. Once again, that means you got to retrain, and there's a, you know, if you don't want to pay, I think you could still get someone to fill that. I think even Lakshmi's volunteered that she has students she thinks that would step in and do that and enjoy doing it. Going back to Genevieve's comments, I totally agree. Like, Facebook has all sorts of issues. I would just say, as a marketer, like, you're doing media mix modeling of where am I going to invest my time and my money and whatever. Like, yes, I don't like Facebook. You can experiment in other things, but if you're not getting the return on investment and getting communication impact with those, you gotta spend the time where you are reaching people there. So find other channels, but if they're not getting traction, it is worth, and I would argue to Marianne, there is a communication problem there that's worth solving, you know, in the town's interest. It is a way to reach citizens. And once again, not all of them, but it is an easy way to reach whatever it is, 20% or whatever. And you have to work a lot harder for the other 80%, unfortunately. So
I do think, Doug, your earlier comment about understanding how people receive their information, where do they go first, is one of the first polls when we engage with Polko that we should do. And I'll say when it comes to the website in particular, Civic Plus actually has a specific survey to go out to the community about their website usage. Because I do think it would be really interesting. I think I know how people receive information, but I don't know, which is why we launched these forums. So, you know, hopefully we just continue the information gathering so that we can make informed decisions.
yeah, totally agree. And I just want to say that's way too wise of a thing to have come from me. That was Paul that recommended. I just want to say that.
Paul, you were it. Paul, you got so quiet, I forgot it was you. And I'll say Paul is also a really great partner on our communications effort. You know, Paul does through the NCRTF, the banners in town. And so during COVID was a great partner in spreading information about that. And then just, you know, in general all the time. So thanks, Paul. Okay.
So, hi, I'm Kay on the library board, and I just wanted to reinforce and back up your idea about all of us sharing things on the Needham Facebook page. For example, I just, after you said that, went on to the Facebook page and shared the notice about the News You Need newsletter to some of the other Needham groups. There's a whole variety of Needham groups, as I'm sure we know, parents groups, wildlife groups, and gardening groups. And so to that particular post, to put that out to all those different groups that we belong to is a really great idea. So I just wanted to reinforce that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, well, I don't see any other hands or unmuting action happening. So I just want to thank you again, sincerely, everybody, for taking the time tonight to, one, understand sort of where we're coming from in terms of our communications, and also being willing to be a part of helping us improve. I will look and see if we have emails for this group who is on tonight and send out some of the website examples. I'll make sure you also know, again, the schedule of the next 4 forums. The PowerPoint presentation will be posted tomorrow up on the website. I'm also happy if anybody emails me and wants it directly, I can just send it to you. But thank you again. Feel free to drop me a line anytime, and have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care. Thank you.
Thanks so much.